Tyler stepped on Elia's basket, and the entire supermarket froze in shock. But instead of despair, a fire of determination lit up in her eyes. She looked ready to change everything. What happened next will shock even those who've seen it all. But let's start from the beginning. When Tyler crushed Aaliyah's basket underfoot, the supermarket was stunned, and in her eyes, a resolve ignited, a sign of an impending, life-altering shift. That one action sparked a chain of events that still sends shivers down spines. What happened next, though, will shock even the most unshakable. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The evening was cool and misty as Aaliyah Johnson walked into Green Mart, a supermarket hidden away from the city's chaos under the soft, intimate glow of warm lights that created an atmosphere of comfort and security. She strolled through the aisles, where the gentle hum of refrigerators and the quiet murmur of shoppers blended with the rich aroma of fresh pastries and spices, momentarily making the outside world disappear. Everything in this place, from the gleaming tiles to the neatly arranged products, promised her a peaceful, predictable evening. But everything changed the moment Aaliyah reached the checkout. Her hands, slightly trembling from exhaustion, carefully placed her groceries on the conveyor belt. Delicate fruits, fine cheeses, and a few gourmet items she had picked out with care, as if preparing for something special. At that moment, the supermarket's entrance swung open, and in walked Tyler Harris, a young cashier whose expression carried a mix of indifference and something darker, a veiled hostility. His steps were brisk, almost impatient, as though he wasn't there to work but to make a statement. Without acknowledging the store's usual welcoming atmosphere, Tyler approached the register with unmistakable rudeness. His gaze was cold and unyielding, as if he were searching for an excuse to assert his dominance. Then, without warning, his foot came down on one of Aaliyah's bags, the one holding fresh apples and a few exquisite gourmet items she had so carefully selected. The sound that followed was sharp and cruel, like shattering glass, and it echoed through the store, drawing every eye toward the scene. Shoppers froze. Some faces showed confusion, others outrage, and a few tried to mask their immediate judgment. Aaliyah felt a chill rush through her, a mix of physical pain from the sudden jolt and emotional shock from the sheer senselessness of the act. Her heart pounded faster, her thoughts blurring together. How could this happen here, in a place of order and kindness? Time seemed to slow, stretching each second into something unbearably heavy. Every detail became hyper-real, the crunching sound of the crushed bag, the hushed whispers of horrified onlookers, and most of all, the transformation in Aaliyah's eyes. They no longer just held pain. They burned with growing determination. A spark had been lit inside her, a quiet yet powerful force that promised this humiliation would not go unanswered. Every element of that moment, from the sound of destruction to the flicker of Tyler's gaze, became the catalyst for what would later change everything. What had started as an ordinary evening in a familiar supermarket had suddenly turned into a scene of blatant injustice, striking at the very core of her being. And though Aaliyah didn't yet fully grasp the magnitude of what was happening, she already knew one thing for certain: her life would never be the same again. After that awful moment, Tyler's cruel voice echoed in my head for hours. I stood there, frozen in rage, unable to move from the shock. On my way home, in the silence of my empty car, I tried to calm myself. But every cell in my body burned. I could feel anger and injustice coursing through my veins. My thoughts became distorted. Everything was clearer now. What had started as just another evening turned into a moment that left a permanent scar on my soul. I had lived with this confusion about others, often misinterpreting things. But now, all I could feel was pure hatred. Leaving Green Mart, Aaliyah felt her heart pounding in sync with the storm of emotions raging inside her. Every thought, Every breath was laced with unbearable pain and fiery anger. That night, as she made her way home under the cold shimmer of streetlights, she couldn't shake the image of Tyler. His indifferent stare, his cruel actions, the way his malice struck her like a hammer blow. The injustice of it all sparked something inside her, a flame that quickly grew into a wildfire of hatred. Sitting on the knitted couch in her small apartment, she replayed every second of what had happened. Every little detail, the crunch of her crushed bag, the coldness in his gaze, the hushed whispers of bystanders, sharpened her disgust. She dissected the moment over and over, as if searching for confirmation of every fear and resentment she had bottled up for years. And then, it hit her. Tyler wasn't just some cruel man. He was a symbol of something bigger, a system that allowed moments like this to happen over and over again. That realization only intensified her fury, feeding it until it pulsed inside her, raw and uncontainable. As she passed by the mirror, she caught a glimpse of a woman she no longer recognized. A woman who could no longer afford to be a passive victim. In her reflection, her eyes burned with a newfound fire, one forged from deep humiliation and a desperate need for justice. Memories of every insult, every injustice she had endured in her lifetime fused with this moment, forming an unstoppable force. The hatred coursing through her veins whispered that she had to fight back, even if it meant standing alone against the world. With each heartbeat, her rage turned into a promise. She would not let this stand. The pain inside her had transformed into something else, a burning determination. She would never allow herself or her people to be humiliated again. This hatred, born from cold cruelty, was the beginning of something greater, not just a change in her own life, but a transformation of the world around her. And though her anger was bright and destructive, within it was a spark of triumph, a promise to reclaim the dignity that had been stolen from her. Every moment spent alone only strengthened her resolve. Never again. Never again would she let anyone trample over her. Never again would she let anyone shatter her sense of worth. What had once been pain and shame had now become fuel for a future fight. Aaliyah understood one thing. This hatred wasn't just an emotion. It was a call to action. A force that would push her forward until the day she claimed the justice she deserved. And with her heart pounding in righteous fury, she knew one thing for certain. Vengeance and change were coming. Under the weight of the fire ignited by unbearable humiliation, Aaliyah Johnson felt rage consume every fiber of her being. This wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was a force, a relentless engine transforming pain into the raw energy of action. In the hours following the incident, as cold rain drummed against the windows of her small apartment, Aaliyah couldn't sleep. Images of the crushed bag, the sickening crunch, and Tyler's cold, merciless stare replayed in her mind like a haunting loop. Every second of that sleepless night added fuel to her resolve, turning anguish into an unshakable determination. By the time the first rays of sunlight broke through her window, she had made a decision that would alter the course of her life. Never again would injustice rule over her. That very morning, she enrolled in an intensive entrepreneurship course, where every lesson became more than just business training. It was a lesson in reclaiming her power. Every textbook page, every instructor's word reinforced a simple truth. Knowledge and strategy could turn pain into power, humiliation into the fuel for success. With every business idea born from her seething anger, she meticulously sketched out detailed plans, writing them down in her notebook as if mapping the path to her inevitable triumph. Late into the night, while the city was bathed in neon lights, Aaliyah sat at her desk, surrounded by blueprints, graphs, and analytics. The dim glow of her desk lamp cast shadows that felt like silent witnesses to her transformation. Every number she wrote down, every strategy she devised was another step toward dismantling the system that had allowed her humiliation. The rage that once burned chaotically inside her was now a disciplined force, sharpened into a weapon she wielded with precision. Her eyes gleamed with purpose. Every line in her notebook was a brick in the foundation of a new, just future, one where no one would ever trample on her dignity again. This was the moment when personal tragedy morphed into unstoppable momentum. Aaliyah's rage had become something greater, a strategic energy, a force powerful enough to shatter any obstacle in her way. She knew now that every action she took would echo the pain she had endured, but it would also serve as a declaration to the world. Injustice will no longer go unchallenged. Years of relentless hard work, unwavering dedication, and an unshakable belief in herself had turned Aaliyah Johnson's dream into reality. Today, she was the proud owner of a thriving supermarket chain, where every aisle exuded modern elegance, softly lit by designer lamps and filled with the refined melodies of ambient music, creating an atmosphere of peace and confidence. Every detail of her stores embodied harmony and order, as if each carefully placed element served as a reminder that justice and perseverance always lead to victory. On this special day, Aaliyah was hosting her annual event for employees and loyal customers at one of the largest supermarkets in her chain. Under chandeliers casting a warm glow, and along perfectly arranged shelves stocked with the finest fresh products, a celebratory energy filled the air. The gleam of spotless countertops, the carefully curated displays, and the smiles of satisfied customers spoke volumes. This was more than just a store. It was a symbol of change, of a new beginning. And then, amidst the flow of guests and employees, Aaliyah spotted a familiar face. Tyler Harris. The former cashier whose cruelty had once humiliated her now stood awkwardly in the grand space she had built from the ashes of that painful memory. He no longer carried the arrogance she remembered. His confidence had faded, replaced by an uneasy gaze, heavy with the weight of past mistakes. For Aaliyah, this was the moment of ultimate triumph. The moment when every sleepless night, every ounce of effort, and every drop of sweat culminated into undeniable success. Standing on the stage before the crowd, Aaliyah met Tyler's eyes with a composed smile and a quiet, resolute confidence. The past was over. The world she now led was one where every customer felt respect, every employee felt valued, and no one would ever experience the indignity she once had. A subtle but unmistakable spark of satisfaction gleamed in her eyes, and for a moment the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Justice had finally prevailed. The sounds of celebration, the murmurs of employees sharing stories, and the heartfelt gratitude of customers wove together into a symphony of victory and transformation. Aaliyah felt a deep sense of peace and pride settle within her. Every struggle, every wound, and every hardship had been stepping stones to this moment. Looking around, she knew nothing could ever shake her again. And as the past and present collided in a single glance, her journey reached its final crescendo, a testament to all who witnessed it. True success is born when pain becomes power, and dreams turn into reality.